key issue is perhaps obvious around Brexit, which is what's the basis of our future relationship. And we keep getting into nuanced and largely unrealistic differences around maximum facilitation, customs partnership, customs union, EEA, single market, free trade agreement. The frustration is that we actually have no clarity yet as a country from the government as to what it's aiming for. And there is a disconnect between what Brussels thinks is available and what Britain would like to see on both sides of the house, actually. And so the question is, who amongst parliamentarians will stand out for that? There are the outliers like me who are pro-European rebels, but everybody knows that, and that's kind of all the news now. The question is, we need people on the front bench in both parties, to both main parties, I have to say, of government and opposition, to start to stand up and provide these credible options. That is primarily a purpose for government, because they're in government. So who might do that? I mean, Sajid Javid is looking interesting as Home Secretary. He's already got quite a few slightly more liberal reforms through with the agreement of the Prime Minister. Who knows what influence he will have. And of course, Philip Hammond in the Treasury is making a sensible economic argument around what our relationship should be. Caroline Noakes in the Home Office as Immigration Minister is someone that I thought has been quite good too. But who knows? And politics seems to flux every 5 minutes at the moment. The EU institutions during the Brexit negotiations have got a couple of challenges. The first challenge is to make Brexit not look like a positive opportunity for other member states, given that the EU institutions believe in the European Union project. They don't want it to be seen to be easy or more beneficial to do that for those that maybe have rising populist movements against the European Union. The second challenge for the institutions is holding the 27 member states together. And Barnier and the Commission have been doing a very good job of that so far in presenting a united voice to the British government. But as we get nearer to the time running out, I wonder whether you'll start to see a bit more comment from the national parliaments in the 27 remaining member states when they have their own interests at stake, whether it's on financial services or rights of migrant labour or whatever it might be, starting to break ranks a little bit from the European Commission, and that's a real tough job for them to try and keep it all together as one voice. On the final deal, all of the 27 remaining member states have to sign it off. That's why the time pressure is so relevant here in Britain to try and get this heads of terms on the trade relationship done by October, because it then needs to go to all the 27 in Parliament. And they have a veto. So in theory, yeah, member states could veto the deal, but I'm not sure it's particularly in their interest to do so, because the question is then, well, what happens next? In my view, it should be an extension of the Article 50 window, but in other people's views, it's a hard Brexit. And so no doubt the European institutions will try to work with the member states and others to try and get the best outcome. Because of course the UK leaving the EU is bad for the EU as well. The EU recognises that, which is why they've said, they don't mind if we change our minds, which is my preference. But so because of that, they will try to hold it together. That's the million-dollar question. What is our trading relationship going to be with the European Union after Brexit, if it happens? And it's important to get the differences right between customs union and single market. We talk about that a lot in Parliament, but it probably doesn't really make a huge amount of sense outside of here. Customs union is around movement of goods, single market is broadly around services, but also with it freedom of movement of people and those types of issues. For me, they're both as important as each other. So some politicians will say, if we get a customs union deal, great for our advanced manufacturing and movement of goods, and that's enough. For me and for actually a large group of MPs, we say fine, but the British economy is about 70% services. Lots of our manufacturers actually provide goods with service bolt-ons and require some of the regulatory issues around single market as well. And in my constituency, Bristol North West, where I have a port, we import food products from Europe too. Those are single market requirements, not customs union requirements. So my preference is either Brexit is canned altogether because it's just hopeless for the country, but for that happening, we need to stay in the single market and the customs union. How we do that is then the question, which is why I backed amendments in the Commons recently, and will do when they come back to us on the European Economic Area, because that's a potential off-the-shelf model that gives access to both. I think the most likely outcome is muddle through, but there's a risk that it will be a slump. I just don't buy the argument at all that there's going to be a boom off the back of Brexit. There is no credible evidence to suggest that there'll be a boom from Brexit, and this chat of a Brexit dividend, whether it's from my party or from the Conservatives, is complete nonsense. My sense is that everybody will want to get a deal done, so you'll end up in the typical kind of EU fudge, and then we need to try and figure out how that's going to work during the implementation period, and then the question is, how long does that fudge last until we have to actually figure out how it's going to work properly in the future. So if our exit completes from the European Union, it poses some fundamental challenges for us as a country. One of the greatest concerns that I and others had after the Brexit vote was the fact that it seemed to provide consent to some people to be offensive to migrants, to say, we've won the Brexit referendum, when are you going home? That can't be acceptable. Equally, the message we gave to the world, to many people, was that we're not open anymore. We're not interested in the skills and talents and contributions of people from around the world, and we're closing the door. Equally, you look at our role in the world. Other countries think we are balmy, and I agree, and therefore they perhaps don't take us as seriously as we used to do. And likewise, our part of the European market provided a great bridge for other countries to set up shop here in Britain, because we have a strong economy and strong rule of law and all of those benefits, but with the opportunity to expand into the European Union, and for us to effectively influence what happens in the EU in quite a significant way. All of those things could change after Brexit. What I don't want us to be is a country that becomes closed, not welcoming, that is diminishing in terms of its economic and global power and influence. And sadly, I think those are potential outcomes of a Brexit conclusion. So one of the interesting questions is, what further consent do we need from the British people in order to take certain steps? I and others absolutely hold the view that the simple question that was in the referendum in 2016 didn't give an answer to the hundreds of detailed questions that come out of the back of it. So the question was, should we remain or leave the European Union, yes or no? The British people voted to leave, respect the outcome of that referendum. But what that didn't say is, well, do you want to leave the single market and or the customs union? Didn't say, would you like to lose jobs and investment? Didn't say, what would you like to happen to your citizenship? And all the other questions come out the back of it. So the question is, how much authority does the government have to take decisions off the back of that referendum? And my view is it's quite a narrow authority, and that's why I've been backing the potential for a people's vote. Parliament will hopefully, if all goes well in House of Commons, have a meaningful vote on the proposed trade deal later this year. If the trade deal is voted down, the question is then what? You can do a general election. I'm not sure the Conservatives really want to do that at the moment. And actually, in some ways, I don't think a general election is the answer, because it will be focused entirely on this one issue. And we do have to remember, of course, that the health service is in crisis. We need to build more houses. We need to solve social care. There's lots of other stuff that we need to be talking about in general elections as well. And so that begs the question, well, maybe there is a need for a referendum on the trade deal, which says this is what's on offer, this is what it means. Do you want to go ahead with that or not? And I think there's some merit in talking about a people's vote should Parliament vote down the trade deal.